Welcome again, everybody, to the 5280 Basketball Insider. I will be filling in for Mr. Alexander Slade as your host. My name is Santi, and I am joined today by the best hair in the business, Michael Squires. Michael, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. What an introduction.
Thank you.
Lived up to the hype.
Yeah, no, I'm here to fill in for Alex, who is away currently. So I figured I'd show him how we can do it better by just letting me do it. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. Michael, we had sort of a rough week of basketball, 2 losses and a postponed game. Our most recent loss was disheartening, wouldn't you say, against the Sacramento Kings?
I would have to wholeheartedly agree with that coming from the aspect that they have our number this season. We've already lost to them. It seems that they play better than they do against other teams. I watch them play against other teams, and they don't look as good as they do. They are an 11-win team, so I'm not saying that they're a horrible team.
Mm-hmm.
And we were shorthanded, so I guess it wasn't the worst loss, but it just felt like we could have won that game. And we let it slip away just like previous games.
Yeah, and the same thing can be said about the Lakers game 2 days previous to that one, where we were leading 12 at the half, and then LeBron James and Anthony Davis decided to turn it on and scored a 37-point quarter to bring them 12 ahead after the third quarter, and it was just downhill from there, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And not only did they put up that 30-plus quarter, we only scored, I believe, 18 in that third quarter. So the defense was absolutely stifling. The offense was moving. They were clicking on all cylinders. Their plus or minus through their whole team went positive, except for Alex Caruso, who went -2. But literally, even their started a bench, had a positive plus or minus, which you think leading at the half, it wouldn't be like that. But no, they actually had a tale of 2 halves, and the first half looked nothing like the second half, and we absolutely got dominated. Nikola Jokic didn't show up for a rare time this season, where he wasn't able to put the team on his back. I think he only scored 13 points. We need a bigger performance from MVP candidate and MVP caliber player, especially with some of the other performances he's put up this week. I believe he put up 47 against the Jazz and then put up 50 in the loss against Sacramento. So to see him put up those kind of numbers in between, you kind of hope to have that kind of consistency against a high-profile team and game like the Lakers.
Yeah, I would have to agree, man. But a big problem is Jokic does have to carry this team on the back just about every game. He's gone, 22 consecutive games with a double-double. I mean, those are almost unheard of stats. He's second in history leading in that. He has to do a lot for our offense, and he doesn't do a lot on the defensive end. So when he's not there offensively, the defense can't hold the ground. You know, every time we take Jokic off, you can see a change in the demeanor. The defense is never there, and even when Jokic is there, the defense still isn't there. So we'll go back to the Kings game, where I think the biggest issue was simply the pace they put on us. It's a very young team. They have probably the fastest point guard in the league in De'Aaron Fox. And they were just running it every time. The pace seems to be what was breaking us down in both games, but especially the Sacramento game.
Well, in the Sacramento game, we were kind of riddled with injuries. We didn't have Jamal Murray. We didn't have Gary Harris. We didn't have P.J. Dozier. And there was another person, that Gary Harris, I believe. Was out as well. So we were just
said Gary Harris.
What did I say? Okay, so PJ Dozier,
I think
Jamal
you got
Murray,
him all.
Gary Harris. I believe it was four guards. So it was the guard play, and Campazzo, Facundo Campazzo was also out. So missing that many guards definitely showed. So Jokic did everything that he could and has been all season. If you look at the stats, he leads us in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. He is our team. So he's like, what more can he do? He dropped 50 points in a loss. I put that loss on Michael Porter Jr. He got inserted into the starting lineup. He had a chance. He went -20 plus or minus. He only had 8 points, went 1 for 7 from the 3-point line. It was absolutely his time to step up. If he even hits 2 more of those threes, goes 3 for 7 from 3 and scores 14 points, then we win that game. So with everything that happened, we still had a chance to win that game. We only lost by 5. And Jokic dropped 50. Like, what more can he do? We needed
Yep.
somebody to step up. We've been advocating for Michael Porter Jr. to be inserted into the starting lineup. He had his opportunity, and he absolutely fell flat on his face.
Yeah. And, we hate to see it more than anybody, man. I love Michael Porter Jr. My brother actually went to Mizzou and got to see his first game before he was injured. So I've been a fan of Michael Porter Jr. for a minute. And, I can sing his praises from high up upon the mountain. But when he goes 1 for 7 from 3-point range, and every shot that he takes is one that I just can't abide. He would get the ball and he would shoot it. It doesn't matter where the defender was, how close they were. He was going to shoot it. And I think he just buys into that shot too much. And there's no reason he shouldn't, except for when it stops falling. So I think you hit the nail right on the head with that game. It was a Jokic masterclass. There's nothing more he could have done for us. It was just a lack of showing up from the rest of the starting lineup, as well as the bench, which was definitely having a rough day. We'll also bring the talk to the backup point guard, Marcus Howard, who is shooting a lot like Michael Porter Jr., just taking the shot, even though it wasn't well advised.
Just unwarranted confidence, just thinking that, I've hit a few threes in the games before, so I'm just going to be able to make it whenever. The NBA is easier than I thought it was. And then you try to go be consistent at that and go do that every night. And then you realize, all right, maybe this game is a little harder than I thought.
Yeah, and it's that youthful inexperience. You love to see it. I mean, they have all the energy and all the drive, but sometimes the game is a lot harder than they give it any credit for, and they end up going 1 for 7 or 1 for 5 from 3-point range, thinking that they can just shoot whenever they feel like it. That's not how
the game is a lot different when you're going against starters in this league versus when you're coming off the bench and playing so-called garbage time when the game's already in hand and they're clearing benches. Now you're, not really playing against the team's top tier talent. So you're going to have open threes. People aren't really playing as hard. The game's already in hand. So you're going to shine, of course, in those situations. But when they call upon you later on to come do that against tougher defense or somebody who's more credible, second string, first string, right? It's a lot different when you're going against third and fourth strings. And I think when they learn that, they learn it the hard way.
Yeah, it's hard lessons to be learned in this year NBA, but I'm hoping that they are learned by Michael Porter Jr. and that other fella, Mr. Howard. We'll go into another topic, which is our top-heavy game. We start out like world beaters. We always have incredible first and second quarters of first half, and then it seems like as soon as halftime is over, we've lost all our drive, everything that got us to that lead that we had, and we just try to coast off of what success we had in the first quarter and first half. And you can't do that in this league. It's a game of two halves, unfortunately. What do you think is the issue going into halftime for us? Because it seems to be consistently us losing mentality.
It's kind of different from last season because last season we were slow starters and then we turned it on in the second half and have like 20-point comebacks and almost felt like it was better when we were playing from behind. Like, oh yeah, if we're down by 10 or 15 at the half, like, yeah, we're going to win this game. So the mentality is a little different this year. They're getting off to faster starts, but then they're fizzling out. And I don't really know if it's effort or if it's coaching. So adjustments are always made at halftime, right? So the other team's going to go in like, this is what's happening. This is how they're beating us. This is what we're going to do to stop it. And obviously we try to do the same thing. So it ultimately comes down to who made the better adjustments. So obviously in that Lakers game, the Vogel, he made better adjustments than Malone. And they came out with the defensive intensity and just managed. They made us play Laker basketball. We didn't even have a choice. And I don't know if coaching could have overcome that, but that's where normally the game is won or lost, and the two halves that you're talking about. It's normally a game of adjustments, and which coach can make the right adjustment and continue to make the right adjustments throughout the game.
Yeah, I'll agree with you right there. Do you think Michael Malone's lack of success and inexperience is sort of showing against these bigger teams with the bigger coaches? It seems like just about every team with one of the good coaches, like Pop and Steve Nash, just every team with good talent and good coaching seems to be able to beat us, who has definitely some good talent. Maybe not a conference finals team, but we've got Jokic, and we used to have Murray until he got injured. We've got talent. It seems the coaching is just not there in the clutchest moments that we need it.
I would agree. There a lot of games we've let slip away late in the fourth, and teams just seem to be shooting lights out, and there seems to be nothing that we could do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it comes down to effort. But if you're, like I said, if you're a good coach, there's definitely ways to get around. I'm not saying Michael Malone is a bad coach, but he does make questionable, very, very questionable decisions, like when he decides to take timeouts and things of that nature. Like that third quarter, he kind of just in the Lakers game, he kind of just let them run wild for a long period of time.
Absolutely.
And there was just he just let the quarter go out before he called a timeout to stop the bleeding. And I was like yelling at the screen, like, come on, like get the boys together. Like they are running away with this thing. And he's just sitting on the bench, cool demeanor, which is a good thing to have in a coach. But when you're getting blown out, it's time to stop, settle things down, just to slow the game down a little bit.
Absolutely.
If we're not playing our games, and you're going to allow long stretches of us not playing Nuggets basketball. You have to stop and reinforce. Like, look, this is the mindset. This is how we play our game. And I just don't really feel like that gets reinforced.
Yeah, I agree with you. You said something funny in the group chat, like Michael Malone gets extra points for not calling timeout. And, that's a huge issue for us is we let these teams get rolling, and we don't give them a nice hard foul or something to slow down the game so that we can catch our breath, because they will get a stop at the other end and go convert, and another stop and another conversion, because when our offense isn't clicking, we can't defend, period, dot. They're always going to get their offense off over our defense. So our offense needs to be 100%.
We need to outscore people.
Yeah. That's the mentality of this group is, outscoring. And it's especially heavy in the first half where, we had a 79-point quarter or point half against a team. I don't remember who.
I think it was Utah.
Yeah, I think it was.
Because we were shooting lights out. We were
doing incredibly. Yeah. We shot 80% for the game, 88 at first half. So, we came in there to kill, and then it sort of tapered off, and they came back to, I think, within 11, which is not good. Give me one second. I got to sneeze. All right. Cool. Yeah, that's been working on me for a minute. We'll move on to this guard drought. We saw Monte Morris start his first game. Goodness me. Yeah, we saw Monte Morris start his first game, and it was sort of lackluster. He shot 5 for 11, 1 of 3 from 3-point, and he had a couple of turnovers, I think, in just the first quarter. So it was a disappointing start, and that kind of makes me rethink my opinion on Monte Morris as a starter. I don't know if he can handle the reins in Jamal Murray's absence.
Well, he had 11 points and 9 assists and 5 rebounds. Those aren't bad numbers. Those aren't terrible numbers. The turnover ratio isn't what you expect. But like I was mentioning earlier, when you go from off the bench inserted to the starting lineup, the level of competition is a little different. It's a little stiffer. So I would hope to expect that he'd be able to perform slightly better. But I don't think he had a terrible game. He's definitely still considered one of the best backup point guards in the game. So I don't think he did terribly. Definitely hope for more. From his handle on Instagram is a Big Game Tay. So when you have a name like that, you got to kind of show up, especially when you get inserted to the starting lineup. So I mean, he had a positive plus or minus ratio as well. So he didn't do terribly, and the whole starting lineup didn't do terribly. It's just Michael, like I said, it came down to Michael Porter Jr. You play that many minutes and you only score 8 points, it's not going to cut it. Yeah, you got to. They put you in there to score. You're not known for your defensive abilities necessarily. He's not the worst, getting better. I can see the improvement in his game, but if they put you in and you need to be a scorer, 8 points is not going to do it. Not at all.
Absolutely not. And 3 for 11, it was disappointing. We'll talk about Rashaan Holmes, who had a stupid good game against us. Every shot that he took seemed like it was going in, and they weren't even shots. They were those little pushers from the top of the key. And it seems like we always let a certain role player on the opposite team just go off. Like we were really focused on Buddy Hield this game. We did not want him shooting threes. Well, it doesn't really matter if he's shooting threes if he's passing the ball so well, finding the open man, and they keep converting. Where's the hole in our defense where we can't account for the stars, much less the role players?
Well, that definitely came down to coaching. They ripped our game plan apart. Mm-hmm. He passed out of the double team tremendously, so we took Buddy Hield out of the game, but it didn't really help anything. They just spread the wealth, and everyone else was going off, so it just didn't really matter. They played very good team basketball and did what they were supposed to do. They send to somebody's open, and they stuck to that, and they found the open man, and they were hitting timely shots, and especially down the stretch, it's been a consistent thing. Fourth quarter defense for us has been horrendous.
Absolutely atrocious. I'll agree with you there.
It seems like don't matter who they are, big name, no name, small name, they're going to hit the shot. And they're getting so many uncontested shots from, and people are hitting them. And we get uncontested shots from a Jamal Murray who goes 2 for 6 from 3-point land in the last game that he was in. Like that, like you got to put fear in people's hearts. And especially in the Lakers game, he looked like, I believe you said in the group chat, he looked like a deer in the headlights. He had a wide open three, and he's looking around like he wanted to pass it. And like that's just so rare to me, especially from a natural shooter like he is. To pass
last
such
season,
an open shot.
playoffs, Jamal Murray would have shot that, no hesitation.
Right. He'd have struck fear in the hearts. Like he would have probably had somebody would have got a talking to on the bench. Like that's know your personnel. You don't leave a Jamal Murray wide open like that.
Yeah, but now it seems, Jamal just doesn't have that court stretching ability that he had last season. So he's sort of a liability on the offensive end. And speaking of Jamal Murray, he was out against Sacramento with, I believe, a leg injury, which is different. What was that?
He was out with the knee.
Yeah, with the knee injury. Do you think that's kind of fortunate given that he's been underperforming and, trying to work through his arm injury? Do you think it's good that he picked up a knock to put him on the bench for sure?
I think it's extremely unfortunate and went exactly to what we were saying. This dude's trying to push through injuries and got another one. Like it's making it worse. Mm-hmm. As a coach, you cannot allow the players to make their own decisions. Like he's dealing with a shoulder, an elbow, like a back and a knee now. Like you just had to wait. You had to wait till it got to the knee. Like
the man is broken. He's held together by duct tape and spit right now.
And we're just gonna let him keep playing. Like, no, you gotta let one more injury come before you take. That's my thing with Coach Malone. Like, he doesn't take control. It's your team. You can't let injuries dictate when your players are gonna play. And I guess the only fortunate thing is now maybe that rest will heal some of the other ailments. But obviously he's injured, and he's going to continue to be injured and re-aggravate and find new injuries the more he continues to try to play through these. I'm sure that knee injury was probably stress from, carry like all the other injuries, trying to support everything else he's trying to.
Yeah, he was playing way too hard for the condition of his body. And yes, the coaching needs to step up in these situations because a player never wants to not play. That's the thing. And when you play at the highest level, you want to be out there every minute of every game. It's a matter of the coach telling you when and when not to. And Mike Malone, bless his heart, he seems like a great guy, but you can be too nice. Sometimes you have to be an absolute jerk to your players for them to get it through their thick skull that they're going to injure themselves. And lo and behold, we have Jamal Murray out for a couple of weeks with this knee injury. I mean,
I think assertiveness is very important to be a head coach. Like, you need to be assertive. You don't need to necessarily be cold and shy away like a Bill Belichick, like just no emotion at all. But like there has to be some common ground. There has to be some level of respect where, like, all right, you're not playing, and that's that. And it should be really that simple. And I don't know. I really feel like, no, coach, I'm going to play. Like, I'm going to play through this injury because we need to win games. It's a stacked Western Conference. We can't afford to drop any games and fall in the standings or whatever. But I mean, the more that he plays and the more he's injured, the less time he'll actually see once he's trying to heal from his ailments. So everything that we've been talking about is basically happening right in front of our eyes. We've been saying that he needed rest. We've been saying that nothing going to be good from him playing through injuries. It really hurts the team in the long run. And here we are. Now we're without one of our contract players, a max contract player.
Mm-hmm.
Lo and behold,
we're like
big surprise.
We're like Nostradamus in terms of basketball. We can see into the future.
And like Will Barton must have heard us because that game he went 5 for 6 from 3-point land, dropped 18 points. It was like, all right, that's Will Barton of old. Like, that's what we expect from him, you know? Like, that's kind of why we've been like, we don't think he's a bad player, but he's also just hasn't performed, and that's what we expect when I say, all right, that's performing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we know Will Barton has it in him. But anyway, speaking of this season, it's super stacked, the Western Conference. And I've been talking about how top heavy our games can be and how we come in hard and then we pitter out. Could that be allegorical for the season? Could we, possibly go under 500 given that we keep on playing so hard at the start? We're giving all of our resources to the start, trying to get the best start to the season that we can. That we might already be wearing out some of our best players. Jokic is playing 40 minutes a game. Jamal is out injured. We're seeing a lot of injuries in the squad that maybe could have been avoided given proper rotation. Do you think that's going to bite us in the butt?
Yeah, I definitely think it will, especially because we got rid of so much veteran leadership in exchange for young talent that we kind of need that young talent now to step up, to allow us to be contenders, to allow us to be at full strength, allow us to be healthy. We have a game coming up against Milwaukee. They have no players on their injury report. And we have 4 guards on our injury report. So now they're going to be forced to step up. And speaking of, RJ Hampton didn't look terrible.
He didn't.
Last night's
he had
game.
A very good game, actually. Given, he played 28 minutes, 3 for 6. It's good stats. He had 10 rebounds too, which he's not a tiny guy, but he's not a big guy either.
4 offensive rebounds, if I'm not mistaken. So
4 offensive rebounds.
That's huge. That's big time. That's big performance when we're hurting. To see him step up like that was actually a good sign, and maybe be a good sign of things to come. Maybe Malone trusts some of the younger players a little more now to play them more in the rotation, like you're saying, to lessen the load on some of the starters so they don't have to play so much day in and day out. It might be the formula that what gets us back to success and getting in the more wins in the winning column.
Well, let's certainly hope so. Another issue that I think we have is we're out rebounding. We're usually, getting less turnovers than the opposition. It's just a matter of finishing at the time. So I've seen in the past 2 games us get a fast break and pass for a 3-point instead of going for the easy layup. Why are we doing that? What's the point? Like, that's a mentality issue, isn't it?
Right. Like a bird in the hand beats 2 in the bush, right?
Yeah.
So I have to agree. Like, I definitely would rather take those 2. I mean, when the 3s are falling, that's nice, but you live by the 3, you die by the 3.
Absolutely.
And we haven't really been that type of team to be like, all right, they're going to go kill you at the 3-point line. We did great versus Utah. We shot 62% from the 3-point line, but we don't do that consistently. So if we were to do that on a consistent basis, maybe I could understand that from a personnel matchup. Like, we have a lot of people that shoot 3s, so it makes more sense to pass up, drive, and kick. But the way we're built, we kind of rack up points in the paint, rebounds, those type of things. Like, we're not really gonna kill you from the 3-point line.
Yeah, so it's a shame that we rely on it so much, and I think that also goes down to the assertiveness of the coach. I mean, I've seen it happen in games in succession. Mike Malone should be beating it into people's heads that if we get an offensive rebound, if we get a steal or a turnover, just an easy turnover, that has to go to the rack. It can't be, trying to force.
We need points. Yeah, we need conversions off turnovers. We need points off turnovers. We need to push the pace. We need to push the floor. It's Nuggets basketball. That's what we need to get back to. So I definitely totally agree with you on that. Like, we don't do it enough.
Absolutely. And the athleticism is also something that our team is not the best at. I mean, we have Paul Millsap and Nikola Jokic, who are some of the slowest people I think I've ever seen on this Nuggets team. They kind of lug around, and we don't have that explosive factor like the De'Aaron Fox, like the LeBron James, the speed to, really stretch defense and force them to react.
We need that badly because we're tiny. Look at the lineups that we're playing when we start Will Barton and Michael Porter. That's a tiny lineup right there. And then you start Monte Morris. He's not a very big guy either. So we're playing very small. And even though Nikola Jokic is 7 foot, he doesn't really play like a 7-footer. He doesn't have like a 7-footer's presence in the paint.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We have no paint presence as far as defensive intensity and intimidation goes. So it's just like we need to shore that up. And then we don't play perimeter defense that well. So it's like, what do we do well defensively from Malone, who's a defensive-minded coach?
There's not a thing that I can think of that we do well defensively, except maybe steals, which we're really good lanes. Cutting passing lanes. Jokic obviously can strip the ball from anybody if they get lazy. But that's the extent of our defense is managing to get steals and cut off a play before it fully develops.
And then we don't always convert on those. So it's like, all right, we're pushing to get that, and it's a good way to play if you're forcing the turnovers. But if you're not converting, then it's almost useless. Exactly. It's almost demoralizing too. So when you think about
absolutely, it's so sad. I think every turnover should be a layup or a dunk at the basket. Yes, unless it's wide open, there's nobody closing out. You can go for a three, but it seems like we try to force that three when somebody's already right on them, and it falls apart. We need to really start converting on these turnovers because we could be top in the league in points off of turnovers if we really try.
Yeah, we just got to give up on that three ball. I mean, JaMychal Green's hitting it at a high clip. Nikola Jokic shot at like 50%. It's not that we don't have the whole team of 3-point shooters, so there's no reason to play like that.
And against a team that's really good at perimeter defense like the Los Angeles Lakers, we had absolutely no answer for the 3-point.
We struggled.
28%. 28% is not winning numbers at all, especially when you take 28 of them. So
we scored 18 in the third, 17 in the fourth. That is high school numbers.
17 in the third, 18th in the fourth. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a pathetic showing, and it goes to show that when our offense isn't clicking, our defense cannot hold the line, especially against these all-stars like LeBron and AD.
There's no complimentary basketball. And what I think is truly unfortunate is that I think after that Utah win, we probably would have been on a roll, but not playing at Detroit, I think halted some of our buzz right there and killed some of our momentum that we were building up, because that was a huge win. That was a monstrous
that
win.
Was an excellent win. I was super stoked about that one. And when I tuned in on, what was it, Monday or Wednesday, whatever the night the Pistons game was, and it was almost tip-off time, and then they tell us that it's postponed. That sucked the air out of me, man. I can't imagine being a player. I'm all excited, getting my shots up.
I was out running errands, scrambling to get home. I put on the Nuggets game, and there was like some old broadcast or something. I was like, I started scrambling. I got on my phone. I get on ESPN, and I see that it's been postponed. I was like, oh, they were scared of us. That's all I could think. They seen what we just did to the hottest team in the league, and they
didn't want none of that.
They didn't want no parts of that. They know he knew what time it was. So I think they was like, hey man, somebody sneezed and say you got like minutes before, they could feel like they probably heard him in the locker room getting super hype. Like, oh man, they about to stomp us like they just did the Jazz. So they're like, we got to do something, because they played the very next night. Detroit, they ended up playing the very next night.
So I was like, which is whack. And I think any team ought to be not embarrassed, scared, intimidated by the performance that we had against the Jazz, because it looked like we were an actual 3-point shooting team rather than
we figured something out.
It all was falling, and I'd say that's divine graces more than anything, because we have not looked like that any other game of the season. So it was a blessing in that way. And, it got ripped away with the Pistons being postponed. Totally sucked away. Totally sucked away our momentum. And then we had to go against Lakers, who are they're first, right? Aren't they first in the West?
Yeah.
No, it's Jazz. Jazz was first in the West.
Oh yeah, the Jazz.
So we went from like first to second.
So then they went on a 3-game winning streak after we played them, after we beat them. So
Yeah.
like they're right back to their winning ways. So it looks like we can say goodbye to that Northwest Championship that we've been so accustomed to for the past couple of years. It's not looking good. They only have 5 losses.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The Jazz are playing out of this world this season. So, I mean, no shame on them. They're doing awesome. We're just underperforming in a lot of areas, and we could be up there if we had the defense and the hustle and all of these things, all these factors that this team seems to be missing. But
no, they're clicking on all cylinders. They're the team that I figured that they would have been the last couple of years because they've had some deadly 3-point shooters. They have the ability to get to the basket and collapse and kick. So I figured once they actually started putting it all together because they got the defense, they play really good defense, that they were going to start making some noise. And I think that time's finally here. So we can pretty much think that we're not going to get one of those top 3 seeds for winning a conference. So we're going to be looking like playing on the road, not being a home team. That's going to be different for us. The season has definitely been a lot different, but if we want to be successful, we're going to have to learn how to win on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. The Lakers have figured it out. The Jazz have figured it out. We can't perform. And I don't think it's exclusively a road thing because we went 4 or 5 on our last road trip, which was a really good clip. It's mostly just, the consistency and, having the same mentality for each game and being able to go out there and execute rather than, tucker out halfway through and give up. Not that they're giving up, but
sometimes that's how it appears. Like there's that mental toughness aspect that lingers around every year around this time. Are they mentally tough enough? Are they physically tough enough? And the effort, but it all starts at the defensive intensity. When we're getting stops, then our offense starts clicking, and then we're pushing the floor, we're moving, we're getting Jokic involved, we're getting open shooters, we're getting slashes to the basket. When we're playing like that, we're definitely hard to beat, but I don't really feel like we've been playing with that flow, that identity. We still searching for an identity, and it's pretty late in the season to be doing that.
Yeah, we definitely need to figure something out, and I think Malone needs to make some big changes, and we need to bedrock our defense because offense comes from defense. In my opinion, it's a lot easier to get a goal when you're coming off of a rebound than from an inbound. So we just have so much to shore up on that side, and it's disappointing to watch us take these 2 losses in a row. But coming up, we do have the Bucks, who you said earlier are completely healthy while we're dealing with a guard drought. How do you think that's going to play out for us, Michael?
It's definitely going to be a tough matchup. You got Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's leading the team in points, rebound, and assists as well. He's like a point away, like 27.1 points per game. So him and Jokic are definitely having an MVP caliber season. So that matchup is going to be a key one to watch. I think whoever wins that matchup wins the game. But to answer your question, I think that it's going to be a challenge. We're going to need some young guys to definitely step up at the guard position in particular, because like you said, we're at a drought. We're to have a lot of people that are day to day. I don't know who's going to start and who's not. So we don't know what our availability is going to be. So that's going to affect rotation. So it's going to be a challenge, but I mean, this is what they get paid for. This is what they get paid the big bucks for, to be ready for the situation. If your number gets called, you got to step up, you got to play, you got to know the system, and the system has to be good. We have to see. We'll have to see. We play good against teams for the most part. That Lakers game was a disappointment, but we need to play better when we go play against lesser competition. When teams aren't as good, we need to be able to blow them out. We need to start showing that we are contenders, that we definitely deserve a top in the spot of the West, because right now we're not showing it. And it's like, well, we've been saying it's early, we're going to pick up momentum, the roster turnover. It's starting to get to the point where those are just excuses now, and we need to start putting some wins up, and we need to start stringing some wins together and be a lot more consistent. That consistency thing that we keep talking about every single show.
Mm-hmm. It's a big issue, and we have more than just a big matchup in the paint with Jokic and Giannis. We have Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday and Dante DiVincenzo. They have a really solid 3-point shooting team as well to stretch the floor. And our perimeter defense is probably worse than our post defense, I would say. So we have a lot that we have to step up to get this win against the Bucks. They have a better record at 15-8. They've been, kind of half and half on the road, but we'll see how this goes. I hope that we can pull it together.
It's just a matter of what Nuggets team we're going to see.
Yeah.
We're going to see the team that played lights out versus the Jazz, or we're going to see a team that's struggling even though Jokic drops 50 in a loss versus the Kings. We need that second or third person, somebody, because maybe even a second, because Jamal Murray, he hasn't been that guy. He hasn't been that threat.
Exactly.
So we need a second threat at the very least. We really need three threats. I
agree with you, and it's not for lack of talent either. It's lack of performance. It's lack of IQ at times, because Michael Porter Jr. could be that. It's just a matter of finding the right shots and not forcing everything. And
you can't shoot over everybody in this league.
He's tall. He's 6'10", but you still can't shoot over somebody that's right on you, brother. It's hard. This league is a hard defense, hard offense league. Nothing's going to be easy. You got to work for every shot. And when you just force it up as soon as your hand touches the ball, it's not going to go most of the time. It's just
you got to put something together. Like, they have to be scared that you're going to put the ball on the floor. Like, when they're closing out to contest, I bet you during the scouting report during the week, they're like, Michael Porter's not going to put that ball on the ground. So if he gets the ball at the three, you go run out and you contest and you make sure you get a hand up, because he's going to shoot it. And that's showing up on scouting reports the more that he plays in every game that goes by. So it's like, you have to make yourself a threat in different ways. You got to put the ball on the floor and get to the rack. He throws down some monster ducks. Like you say, he's 6'10". The guy's a big guy. So he has to rely more on the other skill sets. Like, he's definitely better than just a pure shooter. It's one of the things in his game, sure, but that's not what he needs to rely on. I think if he gets to the basket more and makes people respect the fact that he is a driver, maybe pull some mid-range shots or take it to the rack, then show that you have a complete game, people will be a lot more hesitant to close out, and maybe those jumpers will be there a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what makes Jokic such a threat every night, is he's not just going into the paint to get his points. He's setting screens, shooting off the pick and pop, finding his open teammates, getting the offensive rebounds. He's a threat on every part of the court. And, Michael Porter Jr. could be a threat on every point of the court, but he wants to focus on his 3-point shooting. And when you do that, you kind of become one-dimensional and easy to guard.
Right. Jokic, he takes what the defense gives him all the time. And I think that's something Michael Porter could do to benefit him. He just takes his shot and jacks it up and thinks it's going to go in, because sometimes it does. And they probably give him the green light. Like, you can shoot. But when you take what the defense gives you, like, Jokic is not the most extremely athletic or talented person in the league. He's like, that's the key aspect to his game, is he doesn't force anything. He just takes what
he flows.
Right. Like, you're going to give me the pick and pop, I'm going to take the pick and pop. You're going to double me, I'm going to swing it to the open man. It's like, you do something, you have an action, I have a reaction. And he plays with this certain calmness and this, like you said, IQ. It basically comes down to the high level of IQ. You got to know when to take those shots. You need to know when to put the ball on the ground, and you need to know when to pass it. And I don't think he does know, but he would rather shoot it. And I think he's learning the hard way. Like, okay, I can't always just shoot it. Maybe every now and then I'm going to kick it back out. Or maybe every now and then I'm going to drive to the rack. Just, just make him think. I know when he gets the ball, he's going to shoot it. And if I know it, the other team knows it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. As Michael Porter Jr. is one of the most athletic 6'10" players in the league right now. There's no reason that he shouldn't be using those legs to get in, because, he's got the height, he's got the speed, he's got the dunks, he's got the layups, he's got just about everything he needs to find.
He has a complete game. He just doesn't use it.
He doesn't want to use it. He doesn't want to use it. He wants to be the hero that brought us back from whatever deficit we were in, or kept us in the game by shooting lights out from three. And you can be that sometimes, but you need to be more than that at every other time, because people are going to remember that one game, but they're also going to remember the 4 after where you underperformed and didn't get the win. So the consistency just has to be there. And, we aren't playing bowl enough, which is why the points are down. The blocks are down. Nothing's good.
No, we
I
need
was
to get
just
the young talent going for sure. We need to develop them because we need them. Obviously, we
mhm.
can't just play our starting lineup and a few off the bench and expect to win games. It hasn't been happening so far, so we need to switch something up. It's up to coaching at this point. You got lemons, you got to make lemonade, and you got to make it taste as good as you possibly can. And that's what they get paid the big bucks for.
Yeah,
Like everybody's getting paid. It's a job. I mean, obviously, you go against
yeah.
players and coaches who get paid as well, so they're going to be
Coach
just
makes
as
money,
competitive.
man.
Yeah, yeah.
You ought to be
It's a
working for it.
volunteer time. Yeah, this ain't volunteer time, and I don't think he's in the hot seat, but I definitely have my eye on Malone because
Yeah,
I
he
want to
might be
see
coming
the
up here. He
progression.
might be. Because as I said, I'm just gonna Nostradamus a little bit and say that this is going to be a pretty top heavy season, and we'll probably end up maybe on the good side of 500, maybe on the bad side of 500, just by how we've been playing and how the season is progressing, especially with our injuries. And I by no means want that to be the case, but it seems like it's written on the walls currently. So we'll
I don't think
have
it's
to see.
playoff or bust or anything, but if we say we don't make the playoffs this year and we don't make the playoffs next year, oh yeah, there'd definitely be some questions as to the effectiveness of Coach
Yeah.
Malone's style. Because like for it to be a defensive minded coach, for our defensive rating to be as bad as it is, it's just it'd be embarrassment to me if I prided myself
I
in a
wouldn't
certain
even
aspect of
call
the game.
Malone a defensive minded coach,
Yeah,
because
well,
if he was defensive
that's how they
minded, we would be
describe
playing
him,
defense.
right? That's how they describe him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I don't see it though. I
Uh,
don't see one thing particularly well that he does. I mean, I guess he did bring us to a good point from the last seasons,
he
but
had a
is
good
it was it
run.
was it talent or was it coaching? You
I,
know,
it could have been both, but I feel like our squad was looking a lot better last season.
a season definitely with the veteran leadership and the perimeter defenders that we had, it made our lack of paint defense manageable. So
Mm-hmm.
not being able so all we basically guard is the mid range and not even that well. So we are always on our heels. We're always giving up something.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to find an identity somewhere on the offense and defensive end because Jokic can't just drop 50 in a loss. We have to
Yeah.
support him, and if he
Yeah.
drops 50 points, that has to be in a winning performance.
That's a monolith effort from a monolith man, and he didn't get the result that he wanted. So
I feel for him. I feel for him.
yeah,
Like
exactly. That's the kind of
I
stuff
hope
that
they
sucks your will out,
yeah.
man.
I hope they're paying for all his like chiropractor, like the other teammates are making sure he's getting
Yeah, they better be
all the
icing
icy
his
hot
knees and
patches
stuff.
in the world. Yeah, they
Yeah.
better be making sure that he gets the 5-star treatment outside of basketball because on the court it's just Jokic right now.
Yeah, that guy definitely needs some pampering if he's going to want to stay with us after
Right.
what just happened. But that's basically all of my talking points from this week. Did you want to bring up anything to talk on?
I mean, we basically hit everything that I wanted to address. We had the wins, the losses, how scared Detroit was to play us, just so they can try to derail our season.
Yeah.
They take Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee from us, and then they kill our momentum. What's going on, Detroit? I
Yeah.
need to know. Is it
Yeah.
a personal attack?
It's obviously personal.
Nah, but for the most part, now I think we covered everything that I wanted to touch on.
All right. Well, we'll close up after I ask Michael about his Super Bowl picks for today. Who do you think's going to win?
So I think greatness will prevail over youth. I think Tom Brady's going to get that seventh. I don't like him personally, so this is not a personal choice
Yeah.
or a biased decision at all. You got to root for greatness while it's still here and while it's in its prime. So in 10 or 20 years, you can tell your loved ones, kids, maybe even grandkids, that you watched Tom Brady win his seventh Super Bowl and seal his rank as the greatest of all time. As I hate to say it, I almost threw up while I was saying it, but like you can't deny the
Yeah.
man's talent. He deserves a spot in Mount Rushmore of football quarterbacks. So you got to witness greatness while it's happening. So I think the Bucks are going to pull it off. The defense has been playing well enough to play complementary football. So I think it'll be an exciting game to watch. I don't think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs will go down without a fight, but I do think they will lose 31-27.
31-27. That's an interesting number. Okay. I'm in agreement with you on the Bucks win. I think Tom Brady is going to pull in that 7th because, as you said, greatness outweighs youth. Patrick Mahomes, I mean, I'm sure he can do it. There's no doubt. It's just going to come down to how the coaching and how the players perform in the game. It's going to come down to execution because either team is capable of winning. I'm not going to give you a score prediction because that's not my game.
Why not? Come on, man.
No, I like wins and losses, bro. I never like to guess the score of a game because I'm always going to be wrong, man. I'm always going to be wrong. Unless it's a soccer game. A soccer game is a lot easier.
Man, if you think about it like that, of course, man. You're going to be wrong every time. You lost half the battle.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll say
throw something out there. We'll see if you are Nostradamus and stuff.
Yeah, we'll say 35-31.
35-31 Bucks?
Yeah, 35-31 Bucks.
Whoever's closer.
Maybe overtime.
All right, whoever's closer, the other person has to buy that other person lunch.
As long as it's like $10, bro.
That's fair. That's fine.
All right, we'll shake on it. And bazang, bazoom. Thank you all for watching. This has been the 5280 Basketball Insider. I am your temporary host, Santi Rico, and for Mr. Michael Squires, we are signing off.
Till next time, Nuggeteers.
Nuggeteers.